And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. I'm David Burnett and joined by the fellas, the real fellas. Chuck Snowden, how are you?
David, I'm doing wonderful. You know, I love Wednesday nights. I can't wait to cut it up. The basketball was good this week, and I can't wait for us to get into this.
By the way, go ahead.
By the way, David, I like to have it again. That's 2 weeks in a row. I like it.
Well, thank you.
Earl, did you like it last week, Chuck?
I did. I told him last week.
Why are you telling him again today?
Earl Rush, introduce yourself. How are you?
I'm doing great, David. I'm kind of disappointed in my predictions so far. I have Dallas and Indianapolis going to the finals, and they both look like trash right now. But it's a 7-game series, so we'll see.
We will see what's going to happen.
I thought both the games were great, but I'm doing well. Let's get the show started.
Yeah.
All right, just to clean up some things, Larry Abels, part of our group, is not here today. I don't know where the heck Larry is, but whatever he's doing has got to be good. And hopefully we will get Mr. Terry Reed from the ATL via Indianapolis, Indiana, on the show shortly. We got a technical problem with Terry.
Indiana University.
And Indiana University, like Chuck Snowden. So Terry Reed, we hope we can get his technical problems resolved and have him on the show as well. He's always viewing our show, so we want to make sure our viewers get some respect. All right, let's start with the Indiana Pacers, New York Knicks. They are getting ready to face off in just a few seconds, but the game one, a lot of controversy, a lot of action, and Jalen Brunson is just a monster. And let me start with you, Chuck. You have been championing Jalen Brunson for a long time, and then we'll get to Earl as well. Chuck, what do you think about game number one?
So the game was interesting, David. I tell you what, I'm glad the Knicks won, but David, honestly, and I know you like the Pacers, they're your guys. They kind of got hosed in that game. A theme that Earl has used all season, all year, both in the football refereeing and now has spilled over to the basketball refereeing. They blew that couple of calls late in that game, and they gave the Knicks that victory and gave the Pacers not an opportunity to try to tie that thing up. That screen call was about as bad as it gets.
It was. Pacers did, but they could have done a lot better. My guy, Tyrese Halliburton, 6 points, and we'll talk about that. Earl, what do you say about the game one with the Knicks and Pacers?
I thought it was a great game, and when they first called the tree, I just went crazy. Because I'm thinking, and I want to know why you guys think that it was a bad call, because I watched it. Things on replay and live action are different. He actually moved towards that guy. That was, if you go by the rule, it wasn't an illegal pick. It really was. At the last minute, he moved his shoulder towards him at the last minute. The guy who threw the pick was not completely still.
Well, I think the NBA agreed with the call. I think the call that was wrong, that couldn't be changed, was when they said he kicked the Pacer player kicked the ball. It was his hand.
It was.
But unfortunately, that kind of particular call cannot be replayed.
Okay, so you got replayed, but there's certain things you can replay. we'll have to discuss this on another show another day because that's just totally, utterly ridiculous. What are you
I
talking
agree
about?
with you, Go.
Ridiculous.
I absolutely agree. Why can't you, if you're not sure if it went off the foot or the hand, why couldn't you go to the monitor to validate that in a playoff game in the fourth quarter at a critical time?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
Because
make sense.
the NBA, like most sports, has some loopholes that, for whatever inexplicable reason,
Yeah,
it makes no sense
but
whatsoever.
it's common sense, though. It's common sense.
It may be common sense, but if it's in the rules, as you know, the rules are often messed up, and the rules say you can't check it. Just like the NFL used to have certain plays that could not be reviewed. Foolishly, they stayed with that for
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
I will say this though.
that.
It makes it, because the game is in New York and those two calls, and Go, you're right. Maybe officially it was a moving pick and you had to call it. But the reality is you can call those picks all day, all long, every game. I see it all the time. Guys slide, they move all the time. I just don't see that call that late in the game.
Well,
But when you see that call and the steal in the pass call, and it's in New York, you almost wonder, are they trying?
I mean, it's gonna make you think something if you're one of those people who think that kind of way.
I know. I agree with you.
It's just ridiculous.
It looks shady. It looks shady. It's not a good look.
It's not a good look. Not at
And you
all.
want to know what? There was 102 picks thrown that game. They only called it twice.
See,
They only called it twice.
so if what you just said is true, Go, because you sound like you did the research on that for real, that's just more the reason why that call can't.
Well, I didn't do the research.
But
I heard it on
there's-
several sports shows.
Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about
For
it
people
now.
who did do the research.
Wow, 102 and only 2 were called. See, there you go.
Okay, let's move. Let's
Oh,
move
wait,
on to
wait,
some
wait,
other.
David.
Hold on.
David.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Before
Chuck.
we move on, David,
We're not changing teams. I'm getting to another point within that. Let's talk about Jalen Brunson. Another 40-point game. You have championed him all season long. I've had some reservation, but I'm not reserving it anymore. When you score 40 points 4 straight games, you're doing something right. Earl, your thoughts on Jalen Brunson and his performances so far in the playoffs?
I mean, I can't say anything negative. I can't say anything negative. You know, I look for negative things to say. I can't say nothing about it. What can you say? This guy's forget the 40 points. He can do whatever he wants to do. And I understand he's not super quick. He's not the strongest man in the world, but
And he's not the tallest man in the world.
he can do whatever he wants. He's one of the few people that can do whatever they want to do on the court in the NBA.
Amen.
Can't stop it.
Chuck, your thoughts on
It's been
Jalen
pretty
Brunson?
remarkable. Because here's the thing, it's not just his play and the points, because you're right, but he makes them in the fourth quarter, down the stretch, big buckets, jumpers. It looked like the Pacers had gone up multiple times and maybe he was going to seal the deal, and then he hit 2 big shots, or then he kicked it out to Vincenzo or whatever, and he hit a big 3. Those 3 Villanova cats, it's been amazing how well they've played. And I'll tell you another thing. I looked at this. OG played 42 minutes. Hardestin played 36 minutes. Brunson played 44 minutes. DaVincio played 44 minutes. And Hart played all 48 minutes.
He did a Wilt Chamberlain, didn't he?
It's unbelievable. The endurance, the toughness. And those guys don't look like they don't miss shots in the fourth quarter because they're tired. In fact, they make their shots in the fourth quarter.
All right, let's talk now about the Pacers and specifically their leader, Tyrese Halliburton. Go ahead.
Can I ask you one question about this, though? And this, I heard this debate, and this is a good. Is Brunson a superstar?
Not yet. He is trending toward that. He's trending toward that, absolutely. But he's not a superstar at this point. Well, I think everything is subjective.
Right.
If you believe he's a superstar, to you he is a superstar. I don't think he's a superstar yet, but I think he's an outstanding player.
If you can take the Sad Sack Knicks to the second round with all the injuries they have, this guy's a superstar. What else can he be? What else can he be?
It's
They're
superstars
gonna be
is
Boston.
a
They're
is
gonna
a
be
label
Boston
that
because of
we
him.
is a label that we bestow on great players. I'm sure if he continues at this rate, because this is his first season at this level, then he will be a superstar.
Right.
He will be a superstar. Let me see if we can get Terry Reed in. Let me try one more time.
Cool.
Hold on. Let me see if I can click him in.
Is Halliburton hurt?
Hold on, Earl.
Oh, come on now. We can't.
6 points?
All right, I can't get him in right now for whatever reason. We'll still keep working with Terry Reed and see if we can get his feed in. Anyway, Earl, you asked about Halliburton. He's been hurt, and he's been playing through hurt. But it does not excuse only scoring 6 points. If he'd have scored 12 points, they win the game. If he'd have scored 8 points, or 9 points, they win the game. It's an inexcusable performance by
David,
Tyrese
what
Halliburton.
you just said make no sense. You say he's hurt, but that's no excuse for him scoring 6. What do you mean?
That is a reasonable thing to say because other games he has been hurt most of the season. But he's been able to hold on, Earl. Don't talk. Let's not talk over each other. Let me just say this. He's played through the injuries and he's played well in certain games. My point is, if you score only 6 points and you play 38 minutes, you got to do better than 6 points. That's all I'm saying. If you're on the court, just like most coaches say, you're not injured for all practical purposes.
Everybody's beat up a little bit. Everybody's beat up.
Well, his coach said that. Rick Carlisle said
he had 2 turnovers late in the He had 2 turnovers late in the
turnovers at the end of the game were inexcusable.
Right.
Unacceptable.
Right.
And, Halliburton
and
is my
he
guy.
didn't make an excuse. He said he was going to bounce back tonight. He
He's
wasn't making excuses. He wasn't.
He's supposed to say that. If he said anything else, he'd have been a liar. All right. What happens tonight? The game's going on now. It's 2-2. What do we see? What do we see for the rest of this game? And I'll start with you, Earl. Can the Pacers bounce back in game 2 in New York?
Oh, yeah, they're winning tonight. Yes,
Okay,
they can. To answer your question, they can, yes.
You're the sports doctor, so I'm counting on you.
Yeah.
Chuck.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard for me to even predict, quite frankly, even though I know that's what you're asking us to do. I think it comes down to Halliburton. I think it's important that Halliburton plays, responds to that bad game. And the other thing is how long can Brunson and those guys keep up this endurance thing? So
they only got about 8 guys playing.
They know. They only got 3 points off the Knicks bench. Only 3 total points off the Knicks bench.
And they lost a player too.
Oh yeah, Mitchell Robinson. I think he's out now.
He's out. He's out for the rest of probably the rest of the playoffs.
I saw that. You know what? I'll tell you what though. Another shout out to the Pacers. That dunk that Obi had during the game, where he came down, he made a steal
and between his legs. Yeah.
Yes, in a playoff game in the Garden.
He wanted to show the New York fans what they're missing. Let me see one more time. Let me see. Yeah. Thought I could get Terry in. Can't do it.
That was a heck of a play by Obi.
It was a heck of a play. Siakam and Anunoby.
Oh, yeah.
Former teammates playing against each other, guarding each other. Any thoughts on that, Chuck?
I think it's been even Steven. I don't know if any one of those two have had an edge. I know Siakam had 19 and OG had 13 and 9 rebounds. OG, Indiana University grad. Indiana University.
How is that even?
Well, 13, 19. I mean,
OG got 13, 19. That's not even.
Because his value isn't just scoring. Siakam is their scorer. OG does a lot of things.
That I would agree with that. Right. I would agree with that. Couple of things. The Pacers and Knicks have a historic connection. Let's talk about the very first one and see if you guys get it. What do the Knicks and the Pacers have in common? going back 51 years.
Mark Jackson.
51 years.
Oh, it's got to go back 51. Oh, it's back as far as 51 years ago.
All right, because I know you guys are struggling with that. Let me
Hold
just
on,
give it
hold
to
on,
you.
hold on.
Go ahead,
Hold on.
Earl.
What are you asking me? You're asking me what? What do they have
51,
in common?
51 years, they have something in
What's
common.
in common
What
with the Knicks
is
and the
that?
Pacers? 51 years.
51. Ain't neither one of them been to the damn championship.
The Pacers weren't even
In
in the NBA 51 years.
1973, 51 years ago, the Knicks won the NBA championship. 1973, the Pacers won it. It's the last time that each franchise has won a championship was 1973, 51 years ago.
Big George McGinnis.
McGinnis was a stud.
Mel Daniels.
Pacers, Mel Daniels. That's a team that could have beat the Knicks. They could have beat the Knicks, but we'll never get to see that.
Right.
Let me try one more time to see if I can get Terry in. His picture's not coming up at all.
Something's wrong with his computer.
Phone. I think he's probably doing it with the phone.
Just leave it. Just bring him in, David, and maybe it'll.
Well, his picture won't even come up. It won't even come up.
It might have to take
hold
a
on,
while.
Earl.
It's just buffering.
No, it's not buffering. It's not even doing that. All right. If I can get him on, I'll get him on. All right. Game number 2. Timberwolves.
Oh, wait, hey, David, before we move on, so this also came up because Brunson's been playing so well. Somebody said Brunson has the potential to be the all-time greatest New York Knick. So this panel, I'd like to know, A, what did you think of that comment? But B, who do you think is the all-time
He's not
greatest New York
he's not
Well,
going
who
to be
said
the all-
that?
one of those talking heads on TV?
The all-time Knick right now would be Walt Frazier or Willis Reed. Walt Frazier or Willis Reed.
Well, you know I'm a Georgetown homer, so you know I think it's Patrick Ewing.
Well,
He didn't win a
anything.
championship.
Terry, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Terry? We are still having some microphone problems with Terry Reed, ATL, Indianapolis, Indiana native, Indiana University grad, and we can't get him on, and I am upset about that because it would be nice to have somebody from the neighborhood on. All right, I'm going to take Terry out until we can fix this problem. We will get him back on. All right, Timberwolves in Denver. Denver is looking very vulnerable. 2-0 down to the Timberwolves. Earl, your thoughts on the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets?
I'm leaning towards them being swept.
Well,
I mean, Denver, Minnesota's really they. I didn't really notice this all year. Some kind of sports doctor, I am, but they play crazy defense, and it doesn't even matter. Their defense is so good; it doesn't even matter if their offense struggles because the other team ain't even scoring. I'd like to think that Denver will come back. They have better pride than that, but I'm leaning towards the sweep.
it's starting to look like that. Chuck, your thoughts?
So I'm so glad Gogo said, because he is the sports doctor, and for him to say, I didn't know Minnesota was, because I didn't either. I'm so impressed by the first 2 games with Minnesota, and they have such a great blend of veterans and young players and length and camaraderie and a budding superstar. The guy is, when you start using names like Jordan in the same sentence with a 22-year-old guy, that's pretty impressive.
Well,
They did that the other night without Gobert.
That don't mean because people are saying them against Jordan, they could just be overhyping him and not really paying attention. I don't even think you can even start to compare those two. But that's just me. That's just me.
No. I agree with you. I'm just saying what he's starting to hear.
Yeah.
Speaking of Rudy Gobert, named for the 4th time the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year. That's got to be part of what's going on in Minnesota. We weren't certain that Gobert and Karl
That's
Anthony
right.
Towns could coexist, 2 7-footers in the lineup at the same time. But maybe what we're seeing out of Anthony Edwards is gelling everything. Maybe so. Earl, what your thoughts there?
Well, he seems to galvanize his teammates. I think you're right, because his confidence is just building over other people. I mean, you got a guy like that on your team, you think you can win. You know, when you got a guy like this guy, he's going up, dunking all over people, hitting the three a little bit more consistently. You say, damn, we can win with this guy. So yeah, I think he's making a big difference. But
Go ahead, keep going.
we had left off Minnesota and Denver. I just wanted to know what is going on with the NBA. Come on, you know this guy who threw a towel in a heat pack. He's supposed to be suspended. He's supposed to be suspended.
Let's just bring this up so everybody understands. Jamal Murray, the star point guard for the Denver Nuggets, threw a towel at the referee, and then later threw a heating pad, which players he threw it at the referee. He was fined today $100,000. Now, why do you think the NBA went the $100,000 fining route as opposed to suspending him, Chuck?
Because it's the playoffs, man. And they know if they take Jamal Murray out of that lineup, given what we've seen so far with him in the lineup, Denver wouldn't have a chance. And I think they would think it just throws the balance off. It's a balance that they have to do between.
But that's not right, though.
I know I don't disagree with you, but it's at the end of the day, it's entertainment, it's business, all those things, and all those things have to be taken into consideration. I really
let me ask you, Earl, because you see some things sometimes that we don't see, and you've got a very astute and good eye about seeing things. Is it Jamal Murray, considering how important he is to the Denver Nuggets and how clutch he is in many games, for him to throw a towel, for him to throw a heating pad, is that a sign that basically Denver is unraveling? If
you ask me what was going on, I would use the words you just used. They're unraveling. They're unraveling, and they're frustrated. Are you watching these guys play defense on these guys? He's frustrated. He's frustrated, man. They can't do anything with him. And as you said, Gobert did not even play the other night.
I'm kind of leaning to sweep myself, like you were saying, Earl. Chuck, go ahead. You got some.
They held the defending champs on what was a must-win game after they lost the first game at home to 80 points without Gobert. Unraveling is a great word for what's happening. There was a signature moment in that game when Murray dribbled the ball across half court and kind of stopped in that little trap area out of bounds in half court. And those two long Minnesota guys had him pinned. And he just looked so frustrated and he didn't know what to do. And I think the length and the athleticism and the defense, that team, I think, built that team for Denver. They got those pieces in with Denver in mind.
I'm going to bring to the discussion an Indianapolis native who's 16, 17 years in the league. He could be the glue guy, Mike Conley Jr. How effective has he been? Has he been a steadying force for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Chuck?
I'm surprised. I actually am surprised. I've always thought Mike was a little bit overrated. And he's been a steadying force for them, not just this year, but even last year he played well for them. And he's that veteran that they have, like a Kyle Lowry. He doesn't play like Kyle Lowry, but that veteran presence that he brings, not but on the floor, but in the locker room. But those two young, long guys, Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid. Naz Reid was the sixth man of the year off the bench. They're just long and athletic and can run. It's just a heck of a thing to watch, actually.
Earl, let me ask you, with a guy like Mike Conley, who's never won a championship, who's been in the league for 15, 16 years, won in high school, almost won a national championship at Ohio State, but has been winless in terms of championships in the NBA. How much does it matter that a guy like that with that much experience, what's riding for him? What do you think, Earl?
Well, how much does it matter for him to try to win?
For Mike Conley Jr. to try to win, finally.
I'm sure it matters a lot. He's been in the league for 18 years and never even sniffed any kind of success in the playoffs. But as Charles said, you didn't think that Mike Conley was overrated. He's vastly overrated. But that's not answering the question that David asked. David asked, does he have an influence on that team? And yes, he does. He does. He's helping them a lot because he settles them down when they need to be settled down. You know,
it's a big jumper every now
he
and
hits
then.
hits the open man. He's doing great. He's doing great, and he's definitely one of the factors of why they're winning.
All right, let's move to another game. The Oklahoma City Thunder against the Dallas Mavericks. The Oklahoma City Thunder thumped the Mavs. Is that something that's going to continue? Earl?
No, Dallas is winning this series.
Why?
I don't think. I think that they have more talent. I think they have more talent than Oklahoma.
Now, Luka, they say, is hurt.
He'll be all right. He'll be all right. He'll be all right. If he
He'll be
really
all
is
right.
hurt, then we don't need to play this series. And we can just end that series right now. But if he comes to be all right, you got him and Kyrie, man. You got him and Kyrie. It's just too much. It's just too much.
Well,
Oklahoma has a lot of depth, but you know, Dallas is winning this
Oklahoma
series.
has been better. Technically, let's stick to the facts here. You're the sports doctor. I'm not. I'm just the sports nurse. All I can say is Oklahoma City has had Dallas's number. To best of my understanding, Oklahoma City, I think, has been overlooked. Now, am I wrong about that, Chuck? Am I wrong about?
So this is when our other partner, Mr. Larry Abels, should bust into the show, because Larry Abels has been trying to tell me about Oklahoma City. I know Earl and you have mentioned them to me as well, and quite frankly, I haven't been monitoring them, or Minnesota, obviously. Oklahoma City is better than I realized. I've watched, because I, like you, Earl, I didn't really say it out loud, but I thought Dallas might get them. And because they don't have enough experience, they're just too young and they don't have a big. And but they kill you softly, right? They just kill you softly.
No, when you say they don't have a big, they check Chad Holmgren.
But he's so thin. He's just really
Doesn't matter.
Well,
He was effective. He played 82 games.
To me, it does matter. So he's just not strong enough.
Oh, well, all I can say is they are undefeated in the playoffs right now.
No, but they're undefeated. They're undefeated because they got a collection of guys. They got a guy on their team named, and I mentioned to you guys a 3 weeks ago, named Dirt or something like Dirt. Dork, and he's a defender. And I haven't seen Luka look like that being defended by somebody. And Dork is so physical and so strong. They just got a lot of collection of guys. Those two Williams, they're better than I realized. And I thought because of the playoffs and no experience was going to hurt them. And they haven't lost.
You've played on team sports before, baseball and basketball. Were you ever injured at all? Were you ever injured? You never got hurt. Okay.
No, I didn't.
So you can't relate to it, but when you're hurt, sometimes you can't do with so many things.
Right. Yeah, I've had
I don't know what you're talking about. Dort. Are you trying to say Dort has been putting Luka in check? Is that what you're saying?
Here's what I bought Dort up a while ago because I thought if the Lakers could have acquired a guy like that, he could check a Jamal Murray and maybe affect Jamal Murray's effectiveness. I just think they have.
He can't check Jamal.
Well, let me say this. We're not talking about the Lakers. No more Laker talk.
Okay.
No Laker talk. No reason to bring the Lakers.
I think we're watching the future in front of us, and I mean OKC, Minnesota. Maybe if Dallas makes some adjustments, but Minnesota and OKC is the future that we're watching right in front of us. So I think 4 or 5 years from now, we might still be talking about those.
Well, let me ask you guys this, to the both of you, and I'll start with you, Chuck, to answer this question. Oklahoma City and Minnesota Timberwolves are on a collision course to play for the Western Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
How does the NBA, who loves big markets, feel about that? Do you think they're upset about that?
I don't think
I'll start
so.
with you.
I don't think so, David. Look, San Antonio went for had a long run. People, and they weren't very, athletic and glamorous. People still monitored them and watched them, etc.
But they didn't watch them anywhere close to the same amount of time as they did the big market. San Antonio was kind of the invisible champion by comparison. Earl.
I think people will watch these two small market teams because the team they have talent. They have talent. They have people that's worth watching.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your question is really valid for somebody like Anthony Edwards. He's 22 years old. Will he stay in Minnesota?
Well, he should. Why should he leave?
Why would he leave? Because
of the same reasons you just mentioned. The same reasons.
Well, let's just put it in the NFL realm. Nobody is telling Patrick Mahomes to leave small market Kansas City.
Exactly. Charles.
That's the problem with the NBA. This is what I've been arguing about for 4 years on this show. The NBA and the fans and the media always think that a player in certain markets has to go somewhere. No, they don't. They can stay there. The best thing that could happen to the NBA would be for OKC to win the championship, or Minnesota to win the championship, or Indiana to win the championship. Not necessarily New York, not necessarily Boston, not necessarily LA. It's got to be spread around. Baseball's done it. Football does it.
David, I don't know the exact number, but if you add the Lakers and the Celtics in terms of championships,
it's 36.
It dominates. Okay?
Well, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. No, not for the future. Not for the future. Not in a Caitlin Clark future. No, it doesn't matter. Who is the great superstar right now? The emerging superstar is in Minnesota.
He is.
And it's Anthony Edwards, and nobody has a player quite like him.
And Joker's in Denver. He's been, he's won.
Well, Joker's not exciting. He's a great player. He's the MVP, but he's not exciting.
So are we saying
Anthony Edwards is exciting?
Are we saying? So you asked who was the most exciting. I think Shai Gilgeous is just as exciting. I'm not going to discount what he's been doing and what he's done because he don't dunk on somebody. Shake this guy. He had 50 games over 30. He had 50 games over 30 points.
Well, you're making my point, Earl. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Canada ought to be showcased. Anthony Edwards ought to be showcased. We need to stop talking about New York. We need to stop talking about LA.
Well, you're from the industry. You're from the industry. You know it's about clicks.
I understand clicks, Chuck. I get that.
Right.
But great players draw the clicks. Great players, not just a team from some city. It's great players.
And so you're saying they need to spread it around, right? Well,
absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I don't know if we were talking about it Monday or we didn't really touch on this. Don't you feel that way about the? Don't you feel that WNBA should do that as well? Because they're not doing it. This is just all Caitlin Clark.
Well, I think the Caitlin Clark situation is completely different. because she has illuminated something in women's basketball that we haven't seen. We have never seen until Caitlin Clark, a female player at the college level, shooting from almost half court and hitting and leading the team to back-to-back national championship games.
Okay.
So she touched a nerve that wasn't touched before. We know great players have played in the WNBA. We know that. And before the WNBA, Cheryl Miller, who I think is the greatest female player of all time, didn't even get to play in the WNBA. So I think Caitlin Clark is a completely different circumstance. And, we shouldn't be getting all upset about it. We should champion that. What do you think? What do you think, Earl?
No,
Continue with that thought.
I think I understand the Caitlin Clark factor. You can't say nothing bad about this young lady. But I think that they need to spread that around. I don't think they should have. I don't think there were several games in the WNBA on Monday or whatever. The first game that they started. I watched all the news channels. They did not mention none of the other games. All they talked about was Caitlin Clark's game.
Because that was the one game, and that was on streaming. It was not on any over-the-air. It was on streaming, and I think there was only one other game.
Why was that the only one that was streamed?
I don't know. I can't speak to that. Well, I think we're trying to blame somebody.
No,
First
I'm
of all,
not trying to blame
there's no blame.
anybody. I'm just trying to bring up a point. You say that they should spread spread it around on the NBA, and I agree with you. But I think it should be done the same way with the WNBA.
But I think in that particular case, it's a preseason game. There are only two teams, I believe, two games that were even shown on streaming anyway in the preseason, and one of them was the Indiana Fever. Now, of course, Caitlin Clark is going to draw more attention than the other players. That's just natural. They're selling out many of the games that she's playing at arenas all around the country.
I got you.
Other players are not getting that same attention.
I believe that of course, it's not. I'm not going to say the other ladies will draw more than Caitlin Clark, but I believe that there were millions who were interested in the game where Cordoba and Angel Reese played.
I would say this, Earl. I would say this, Earl. Your points will become very valid when the regular season starts next Wednesday, and we'll see how those games are viewed and seen by the mass audience. That will be our best way to tell that.
They've already made an adjustment. They said that now all of the WNBA teams are having charter flights because they were flying commercial, which I found fascinating that they had all these years been flying commercial. So while we were at the airport, we could have saw a WNBA team in the airport.
I find it fascinating that you're fascinated about them not having any planes. You're the first one to talk about where the money coming from. These ladies aren't making no money. They had to put aside $30 million for those girls to get that. Where the hell are they gonna get that from? They're not getting it from the revenue from the WNBA.
They're getting ready to renegotiate a contract, a television contract, which will be significantly higher, and the ladies will make more money. Now, will they make NBA money? No, they won't. They only play 40 games. They play half the games that the NBA plays in half the time. So we will see what happens, because most of these games are played in arenas that are smaller. In Washington, D.C., where we've all lived and where you guys are, they play in an arena that seats 4,000 fans.
The Go-Go's, right?
They 4,000. That's not enough in the end to really make a lot of money. Before we'll come back to the WNBA real quickly. We got to talk about Boston and Cleveland and that playoff game.
Do we?
Boston smashed Cleveland last night. Is that a trend that's going to continue? And let me start with you, Chuck.
I think so. Cleveland's a good story, and I do think they got talent. I do. But Boston is just, if you believe in them and they've got some players, I think they'll take care of Cleveland, and it'll probably be four games to one. Although Donovan Mitchell's a player now. but I still think that they don't have enough.
Boston, Cleveland, Earl. Who wins?
Boston. I wish there was a way we could just end that series right now. Come on.
All right.
They barely beat Orlando. Well, I know it's got a pretty good little team, though, but no, it's two different levels of Boston and Cleveland. I would like to see the ratings of that game.
Good point. Good point.
Meaning,
All right.
you don't think people were watching that game? You're talking about Boston and Cleveland, or
Why would somebody watch that?
I know people in Boston.
People in Boston, people in Cleveland will watch.
right.
We know Larry will watch.
He's an addict.
He's an addict. All right. Before we finish up with the NBA, a couple of things to note. Victor Wembanyama, unanimous pick for Rookie of the Year. Do we agree or disagree? Earl, yes, no.
No, I don't agree.
Who should have been Rookie of the Year?
Well, by the stats that I saw that someone posted today, it should have been Gobert.
No, Rookie of the Year, not Defensive Player of the
I'm
Year.
sorry. I thought
Rookie
you
of
meant
the Year.
defensive player. I am so sorry.
He did win the defensive. Earl.
He
Gobert
should
did
have.
win the
Gobert
Defensive
should
Player
have
of the
won.
Year.
He did.
Gobert should win.
No, Gobert did win.
I'm talking about Rookie.
No,
of
no,
the
I know.
Year.
I know what you're
Oh,
talking
no,
about.
yeah, of course he's the rookie of the year. Who else? Nobody even close to him.
All right. Chuck, Rookie of the
Not
Year
even
for
close. Not
Victor
even
Wembanyama.
close. Not even close. I think he had a hell of a year. I think they went 8-5 in their last 13 games or something like that. He just got.
Well, what does that mean out of 82? What does that mean?
Well, that means,
means they're getting better.
That means he got better and better, and the team got a little bit better. He had a hell of a year.
All
So
right.
it took him to the end of the year to get better. What are you talking about, man?
He was
No, but
been on the-
end of the season game didn't mean nothing to nobody, but it did mean something to Denver. The game they lost the first place ranking. But no.
All right. One other thing to clean up with the NBA. Pat Riley, general manager and president of the Miami Heat, told Jimmy Butler basically shut the hell up. Jimmy Butler was saying if he'd have not been hurt, they would have won the playoff series. And Pat Riley saying, keep your mouth closed. Is that a way of Pat Riley saying, Jimmy Butler, bye-bye? Chuck.
Well, I think it's two things. A, the Godfather has spoken, period. He don't play. That's the way he rolls. But to your other point, I don't think one has to do with the other, but I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to be back in Miami. I don't.
All right, Earl, what's Pat Riley doing to Jimmy
He wants
Butler?
a max contract too, by the way.
Pat Riley, in that instance, the question you're answering, Pat Riley is just being Pat Riley. He's old school. He don't want to hear all that kind of bullshit. He just wants you to produce. And you're not playing, you're not adding anything, and you weren't that great this year. Well, he's supposed to tell him to shut the hell up. That's how Pat Riley is. Now, the other part that you tried to make might have something to do with that, they're not going to keep him, no. They're not paying him, no. They're not paying him a maximum. He's 30-something years old. He's not going to pay him a maximum.
And he shouldn't get the max.
Whether
He was
if he
34,
had been-
35 years old.
Yeah, if he had been signed and is happy with his contract or anything, Pat Riley still would have said the same thing. I guess that's what I'm saying. That's how he is. Shut up. Shut up.
Sometimes some of these players need to be told to shut up.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing, let's go back real quickly on the WNBA. Are we looking forward to next week at the start of the WNBA season? Earl.
Yes, I am. I definitely am.
Will you watch more than you have ever watched before?
Yes, I will.
All right. Chuck, will you watch starting next week?
I will watch some. It has caught my attention, which I would tell you previously it had not. And I am going to watch, and I am curious, and I'm checking daily, even with the exhibition, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let me ask you this. I'll ask the both of you this. Will both of you go to that teeny weeny arena in Southeast DC and buy a ticket to see the Washington Mystics. Earl, you gonna pay for the Mystics?
Well, I don't pay to go anywhere, but
What's not?
I just happen to know a lot of people. But to be honest with you, David, because we all friends, if the arena was not in Southeast, I probably would go. I haven't been
Wow.
over. I haven't been over Southeast more than 15 times in 65 years.
Mm.
Oh Lord, my daughter lives in Southeast.
I just don't do it. I don't do it. I don't do
Chuck, are you gonna buy a Mystics ticket?
David, no. And I didn't buy a Wizards ticket either.
Okay, I'm going to buy a Fever ticket or several of them this summer. I'm just gonna say that. We got Caitlin, y'all don't. All right.
I do. Hey, David, I will address one other thing you mentioned earlier
Sure.
on Monday. And I guess that's just the way the business is. And you know more about this because you're actually from this industry. But the chatter and the negativism and the jealousy and the back and forth and reporting those nonsense, I just don't like any of that. I mean, I don't think Caitlin is trying to do anything but just play and be herself. And so I just don't like the negative stuff at her. And you said no. Yeah, I just don't like the negative stuff all the time. We don't always have to rip people up, do we?
No, we don't.
Right.
No, we don't.
Well, what negative stuff are you hearing, Chuck? Because
Well, there's a lot of.
I'm not
like I
watching
said,
the same channel.
the captain of the Fever said that she has to be more of a team facilitator publicly. And
Well, if she's practiced with her, and Caitlin has been being a heist, hogging the ball, and not passing the ball, maybe she's not lying. Maybe she does need to. So is that negative? Could that be a truth?
I think that for a teammate to say that is fine. For a teammate to check another teammate, well, even publicly.
To a rookie like that, you're the captain?
I didn't see it. I didn't see the negative in all of that. I really didn't.
Oh.
I think though, Caitlin, sometimes when you're blown up to the point, no other female in the history of women's basketball, professional or college, has received the attention that this young lady's received. No woman has ever received this amount of attention who plays basketball. So the things coming up with Caitlin Clark are going to be different than other players because she's gotten this level of media scrutiny and public scrutiny. And I think we just have to accept that. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we sign off, gentlemen? Is there something that you want to cover?
Closing remark?
Do you have a closing remark, Earl?
I had one, but I don't anymore. My remark was going to be on Willie Mays, but his birthday. But
93.
he hurt me. He hurt my heart so bad by continuing to play in his later age. And then and if you show somebody his older, later films, and then you talk about how great he was, somebody would look at you like you're crazy. I mean, he looked the worst of all the people who should have retired, that didn't. So I'm not
stumbling around in the back in the outfield with the Mets.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do a closing remark on him. So
all right,
that's a good one though. Go. Say hey was a special player. Really a special
Chuck
player.
Snowden, closing comment.
Now this is a little unusual with us, so bear with me on this.
And I'm
talking about our audience.
All right.
So I happened to be channel surfing on Sunday or Saturday, and I came across the Kentucky Derby. It was the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby. What a hell of a horse race. 3 horses came at the end. It was a photo finish, and Mystic Dan won. But that's not my story. And he won in 2 minutes and 3 seconds. That's not what I want to talk about. In 1973, they had a horse called Secretariat. Now this group on the air right now, we've seen sports for a long time. Secretariat.
We were in high school at the time.
We were in high school. It's 1973. Big Red, they used to call Secretariat. Won the Kentucky Derby in 1:59, and it's still the track record in 150 years. He also went on and won the Preakness, which is here in Baltimore, and then he won the Belmont. What I would challenge the audience, Google the Belmont with Big Red in it. He won it by 26 lengths. And when you see the camera frame, him coming down the stretch, there's no other horse in the frame.
You know what's most exciting about that footage that you're talking about is the announcer.
Oh,
The announcer,
believe.
he's got a tremendous lead.
It was unbelievable.
Just unbelievable.
Now,
Unbelievable.
my wife made fun of me when I told her I was going to use a horse to do my closing comments, but I think Big Red was such an amazing athlete or animal that I wanted to make mention of it since I stumbled across the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. If you get a chance, young people out there, Google the Belmont, the Preakness, the Derby with Secretary in 1973.
All right, I got a closing comment, and I'm going to speak on Willie Mays.
With Secretary in 1973.
Oh, what are we hearing? I'm going to speak on Willie Mays. He turned 93 this week. One of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest player. Earl, I know you wanted to talk about him. I know he stumbled around those last couple of years with the Mets, but in his heyday, he was truly the say, hey kid. 93 years old, 93 years long. Happy birthday, Willie Mays. All right. Hey, one thing I'd like to say to Terry Reed, who hung in there. We tried to get him on. He had some technical difficulties. He's one of our most loyal viewers. He's one of my favorite people from the hood, from the golden ghetto of Indianapolis and Indiana University, and now in the ATL. Terry, we will get you on the next time. Whenever we bring you on, we'll get those technical difficulties fixed up, and you'll be back on. I appreciate the fact that you watch our show. Anyway, join us next week for Real Fellas Talk Sports.
All right.